Observing these two very abstract shapes, if I were to ask you which shape corresponds to the nonsense word booba and which to kiki, what would you choose? I would assume you would choose this. You would pair the rounded shape with a smooth sounding word like booba and the jagged shape with a sharp sounding word like kiki, as these shapes are created to visually correspond with the phonetic structure of the words. But why is this so instinctive, and what is happening in our brains when we make these connections? This process of associating the shape with the sound is called multisensory integration, an automatic process by which the brain integrates sensory inputs like sound and sight into a coherent understanding. For children with autism spectrum disorder, this process may not be as instinctive as it is for neurotypical children. They may struggle to integrate visual and auditory stimuli in the same way, leading to challenges in cognitive, communicative, and social functioning. The process of multisensory integration is thought to occur within a specific neural system, known as the mirror neuron system. This system has a presumed role in imitation, empathy, and language as it converts sensory stimuli into motor responses. For example, when engaging in the Booba Kiki task, participants will match shapes with corresponding words, a process that relies on the mirror neuron system as it involves the integration of visual shapes with corresponding motor gestures to pronounce the words. There are four main regions of the cortex hypothesized to be involved in the Booba Kiki task, and therefore underlie the functioning of the mirror neuron system. The Broca's area and the superior temporal sulcus are activated during the perception of speech and are responsible for language articulation, mediating the connection between auditory perception and motor representations of the mouth. The superior temporal gyrus is involved in auditory processing, and the angular gyrus is involved in multisensory integration of visual and auditory perception and language and motor representations. Previous research has actually shown that patients with lesions to these regions, particularly the angular gyrus, are unable to make the associations in the Bubakiki task. Today I'll be presenting the study Preliminary Evidence for Deficits in Multisensory Integration in Autism Spectrum Disorders, the Mirror Neuron Hypothesis. Although existing literature has linked autism to mirror neurons and aspects of impaired language, no experimental studies have yet directly correlated mirror neuron system dysfunction to deficits in language processing in autism spectrum disorder. This gap in literature drives the research question: will children with autism exhibit a measurable difference in their performance on the Bubakiki task compared to neurotypical children? Specifically, the study aims to explore whether a difference in performance could be indicative of deficits in multisensory integration, particularly in tasks that involve the mirror neuron system. The hypothesis of this study is that deficits in multisensory integrative systems, like the mirror neuron system, contribute to the communication and language processing impairments observed in children with autism. More specifically, the study hypothesizes that children with autism would perform less accurately on the Bubakiki task, which requires matching auditory and visual stimuli, a process mediated by the mirror neuron system, compared to neurotypical children. The sample in this study consisted of 30 children, 20 neurotypical children, and 10 classified high-functioning children with autism spectrum disorder, defined as having age-appropriate receptive language skills and an IQ above 80. This study used the Bubakiki task, where children were presented with 5 pairs of nonsense shapes, corresponding to 5 pairs of nonsense words, based on similarities between the auditory and visual forms, and they were asked to identify which shape matched which respective word and indicated their choice on a response sheet. This task looked at comparing the accuracy of matching corresponding shapes to words between the two groups, the neurotypical children serving as the control to assess how the experimental group, children with autism, perform relative to neurotypical children. The results revealed that 88% of the time, neurotypical children would choose the correct nonsense word, which phonetically corresponded with the visual shape of the stimuli. In contrast, children with autism selected the corresponding word only 56% of the time. Not only were they less accurate than neurotypical children, but their performance was not significantly above what would be expected by chance. This suggests that there was no indication that the children with autism use any type of multisensory integrative processes to determine the corresponding names for the shapes. Instead, their responses appear random in nature. These findings align with previous research suggesting deficits in children with autism in integrative tasks and are consistent with the hypothesis that impairments in the mirror neuron system may underlie difficulties like language processing or communication impairments in children with autism. These findings have significant implications for understanding how deficits in multisensory integration may underlie impairments in children with autism, helping us to better support these children. We can imagine how frustrating it would be for a child who has difficulty in processing and integrating sensory modalities, making simple tasks such as communication and social interaction particularly challenging. This research also provides insights into the neurological basis of autism, which can inform future research and interventions which target language communication and cognitive functioning in children with autism. Future studies could build on this novel research, utilizing neuroimaging and larger sample size to corroborate findings. Thank you for listening.